Hello and welcome to today's presentation entitled Introduction to Social Communication Skills in the Classroom. The aims of today's session are as follows. We aim to cover what are social communication skills, what is neurodiversity. We aim to understand neurodivergent and neurotypical communication styles and their differences. We aim to cover how social communication challenges present in the classroom and to give some strategies and tips to develop a neurodiversity affirming approach to supporting your students with social communication challenges. Before we consider what social communication skills are, we need to think about language development in a wider context. So what do we mean by language development? There are lots of different parts that make up our development of language skills and communication. Attention and listening, so focusing on language or play activities and listening to spoken words. Play, sort of exploring toys and the world around them. Understanding of spoken language, so understanding what words mean and also what sentences mean. The use of language, so talking in sentences or short phrases, using spoken words and sentences even if the sounds aren't right. Speech, so the individual sounds you use together to make up a word. And social interaction, skills that we need when communicating with people. For example, turn taking, eye contact, showing interest in others. All of these 6 areas go to make up language development and communication in general and are all equally important. When considering social communication, we need to first consider neurotypical social communication. Neurotypical social communication is the desire to communicate with other people, the ability and need to interact with other people. We need to consider that these skills begin to develop in neurotypical people in the early weeks of life as a very small baby. Many of these skills are non-verbal, particularly within the early years. Neurotypical social communication can include the ability to use eye contact, the ability to initiate, maintain, and end interaction, the ability to take turns, attention and listening skills, understanding and using facial expressions, understanding and using gestures, an understanding of social and conversational rules, the understanding and use of language in a range of situations. For example, how we use language and how we use language with different people at home, if we're playing, in school with friends or in school with teachers, in the classroom, outside, at home with parents, etc. I'd like to explain what neurodiversity means. Neurodiversity is a term that was coined by Judy Singer, an Australian autistic sociologist, in her 1998 honours thesis. It means that all brains are different, and within that, people have different ways of thinking. Neurodivergent. The phrase neurodivergent means a brain that diverges from the typical brain. A typical brain could be considered to be a neurotypical brain. A neurodivergent brain would be from a person whose brain works differently to the typical brain. The social model that we've previously used to consider neurodiversity and autism still defines people as having ability or inability, therefore suggesting people have deficits. The neurodiversity paradigm, born in the 1990s by Judy Singer, takes us one step further by recognising the whole diversity of the mind-body experience. We need to be respectful of each other's differences, including our different communication styles. They are not wrong, just different. Autism isn't curable. Telling people they are disordered and valueless has real, genuine mental health consequences. Consider all of the aspects of a person as a whole. Recognise their strengths and challenges, and rather than trying to fix them to behave in a neurotypical way, see how they could be supported. So let's think about how specifically we can achieve our goal of maximising happiness and well-being in the individual case of any given autistic person, regardless of their level of functioning. The neurodiversity paradigm allows us to investigate and deal with any challenges the individual faces. The neurodiversity paradigm supports that all brains are different, and brains that diverge from the mean shouldn't be considered as bad or deficient. Neurological difference isn't bad or good, it just is. Neurodivergent brains can come from a variety of different conditions. Please see some of the main ones listed on this slide below, including autism, schizophrenia, dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, and bipolar. We're now going to consider how neurodivergent communication styles differ from neurotypical communication styles. Your student may display all or some of the following communication differences. When I talk to you, the tone of my voice might make you think that I'm angry, rude, or bored. The emotion you hear in my voice doesn't always match what I'm feeling. When I talk to you, it can sometimes take me a while to answer back. This is because my brain often needs time to think about my response and more time to process what you've said to me. When I talk to you, I may look away a lot. This is because your eyes are quite intense and I hear better when I look away. When I talk to you, the way my face moves and expresses itself might be different. This is because it has its own way of sitting that may not be what you expect. When I talk to you, I am straightforward with my words. This is because I prefer to say exactly what I mean, as all the stuff around it can be confusing. When I talk to you, I might move, fidget, or stim. Moving helps me to listen, focus, and regulate myself. When I talk to you, I may start telling you facts or stories. This is because I find it easy to talk about things I like, and sharing them makes me feel good. When I talk to you, I might forget to ask you social or chit-chat questions. This is because small talk is something I don't always like or understand. When I talk to you, I might not always notice your emotions or a situation you are in. This is because it's not always obvious to me how you are feeling or why you are feeling that way. When I talk to you, I might keep turning the conversation back to me. This is because my way of showing you I understand is to share my own experiences. What do we mean by social communication challenges? What might social communication challenges look like? Children or young people with neurodivergent communication styles may find it hard to join in group discussions. They may shout out in class. They may have difficulty staying on topic and may want to talk about things that interest them or things they prefer. They may not give the listener enough information to be able to be understood, and they may use different eye contact. Children or young people with neurodivergent communication styles may find coping with changes in routine challenging. They may have difficulties with high-level aspects of language, such as reasoning, inference, and understanding questions. They may have difficulty appreciating the needs and feelings of others, and they may be bullied, easily stressed, and socially isolated. We're going to consider the impact that these social communication challenges experienced by neurodivergent individuals have in school. Let's consider PE. Children with neurodivergent communication styles can struggle with changing rooms and the concept of changing clothes and being in a different environment. They can struggle with the noise in a hall or an echoey environment and following the rules and participating in team games. They may find it difficult to manage their personal space, to take turns, and of course with remembering their PE kit in the first place. This slide considers the impact that neurodivergent communication styles can have in school on non-structured times, such as break times and lunch times. This can also happen during corridors on lesson changeovers. They may not understand the need for quiet. They may struggle in assemblies, at lunch times and break times. They may have difficulties with friendships and with misinterpreting different social situations. Toilets can be a trigger point, especially with hand dryers, as these are very noisy, and in an echoey environment even more so. School trips may be challenging as well, as these don't follow the normal routine, and quite often a uniform isn't worn. Alarms and bells sounding at different times of the day can also be a trigger point from a sensory point of view. Let's consider the impact that social communication challenges have in school on literacy lessons. Children with neurodivergent communication styles may have difficulty seeing things from another person's perspective. They may find it hard to give opinions, and they may find it challenging knowing how to start a piece of work. They may have difficulty maintaining a topic in their written work or in an oral piece or spoken piece of work. They may have difficulties coping with change or transition between activities or tasks. They may have difficulty making an inference or understanding non-literal language, such as idioms, everyday sayings, or sarcasm. Let's consider the impact that social communication challenges have in school on numeracy or maths lessons. Children with neurodivergent communication styles may have difficulty understanding time concepts. They may have very good mechanical skills, but their skills may become poor when language processing is involved and they have to solve a maths problem which involves language. They may be reluctant to show their working out or to learn several rules. Let's consider the impact that social communication challenges have in school on science lessons. Children with neurodivergent communication styles may focus too much on specific details and be unable to see the wider picture or the whole picture. They may be unable to see the links in topics. They may struggle with group working and with the organisation of equipment, and they may be hypersensitive to different sensory things such as light, noise and smells. Social communication challenges can result in social anxiety, differences in behaviour, literal understanding of language, differences in pragmatics or social skills, differences in use of eye contact, working memory challenges, a slower processing speed, and challenges in understanding and describing feelings. Let's consider ways you can support your student or young person. Self-advocacy. Encourage your student to get any help they need by asking for it, using a multimodal approach to communication. Can you help me with? I don't understand. Can you repeat that? Other examples you could use are, I need a break. I'm struggling today. Could you read this out to me, please? I don't like loud noises. Could I work somewhere quieter? Remember, all forms of communication are equally valuable, whether the child is verbally asking for this, indicating use a token or a symbol or an agreed signal. All forms of communication are equally valuable and should be acknowledged. Let's consider double empathy. This is the theory that helps to describe what happens when neurodivergent and neurotypical communication styles struggle to understand each other. By finding out more about the double empathy problem, we can raise our awareness of neurodivergent communication styles, understand each other better, and meet in the middle. Improving our understanding of our communication differences will support our students in finding it easier to spend time with non-autistic friends and family, as well as non-autistic teachers, doctors, and employers. Let's consider ways you can support your student or young person. Building our understanding of each other makes the world more inclusive and accepting of everyone, and that's very important. The University of Edinburgh offers a free downloadable programme for mainstream primary schools to introduce pupils aged 8 to 11 years to the concept of neurodiversity and how it impacts our experiences at school. This programme is called the LEANS, and there will be a link at the end of this presentation to it. How can we support our students and young people in development of play? Before you set play goals, ask yourself, am I trying to facilitate neurotypical development, or am I empowering engagement activities that facilitate joy? For example, playing board games to provide opportunities for turn-taking and cooperation, or encouraging pretend play versus facilitating active engagement in an experience that is freely chosen, intrinsically motivated, and self-directed, and above all joyful, no matter how it looks to you. Let's consider how we can support students through multimodal communication. Your communication goal for any student is for them to achieve autonomous communication by any means possible. So being able to say what they want to say to whoever they want to say it, whenever they want to say it, however they choose to say it. That may be by speaking, it may be by signing, it may be by using symbols or photos, gestures or pointing. The goal is not for your student to talk, but for them to have autonomous communication by any means possible. The pro-neurodiversity model of communication empowers people to respond to any attempt a student makes to communicate their needs, whether that be verbally or non-verbally. Don't insist on students to use your words or say that more clearly. All forms of communication are valuable. Here's a lovely infographic to demonstrate multimodal communication and how we need to value all forms of communication, not just spoken language. We've got AAC systems, pictures and choice boards, gestures, texting, sign language, body language, typing, facial expression, and many more. How can we support our children using visual supports, and why are they important? Visual supports support understanding. They ensure that visual information stays around longer and therefore increases a child or young person's independence or autonomy to work by themselves. It improves access to academic information and increases predictability. It teaches social differences, supports spoken communication, and reduces frustration anxiety. Below are some types of visual support that you can use. Objects, pictures, colours, drawings, symbols, photos, games, stickers, charts, posters, communication books, gesture, written messages. The list is endless. Let's consider what ways we can use visual support for children and young people with neurodivergent communication styles. We can use them as location supports, for example putting symbols on drawers so people know what's in them or where to find things. We can use them on schedules, for example timetables, photos, texts, symbols, photos, stickers, first and then. We can use objects of reference, and we'd use these by making choices, contextual cues and prompts so children know what's going to happen next. We can use these in a social context, for example in social stories, to help a child understand a new or challenging situation for them. We can use visual support as reminders, signs, symbols, timers, clocks, sequencing cards and post-its for them to remember how to do things, when and in what order. When supporting a child with neurodivergent communication styles, we need to consider our language levels. The blank levels of questioning, sometimes known as the language of learning model, is a framework developed by Blank, Rose and Berlin in 1978. Its main aim is to develop children's verbal reasoning and abstract language capabilities. By supporting their communication development, using a variety of verbal and non-verbal communication methods, children have increased opportunities to give their views, make choices, solve their own problems, and increase their confidence and independence. Please speak to your speech and language therapist for further training in this area and refer to links at the end of this training for more information. We're now going to consider some communication strategies that may be helpful in supporting students and young people with social communication challenges. Please slow down your rate of speech. Talk slower. This supports the student's language processing and executive functioning difficulties. Reduce the amount of speech or spoken language you are using. Give plenty of processing time. It might feel awkward for you, but it won't for the person with social communication challenges. Pause between sentences. Give them time to digest and process your message, especially when explaining something or giving instructions. Try to avoid multi-part questions. Ask one at a time and wait for a response. Otherwise, by the time you've said the third part, they will have forgotten the first part. Some further communication strategies. Be as specific as you can. Say what you mean as clearly as you can. There are many interpretations to things that people say. Be direct. Do not phrase in polite language as they may misconstrue a choice. Explain non-literal language, for example metaphors, symbolism, idioms, words with double meanings or with lots of different interpretations. Explain technical language or jargon. And say their name to gain their attention before you start talking to them. Let's consider the role of the speech and language therapist when working with neurodivergent individuals. We support children and young people with social communication needs, those who are neurodivergent, to develop autonomy or independence and self-sufficiency. We do not aim to fix students or encourage them to mask their authentic selves. We want students to be able to communicate about what's important to them, not us. And we want students to know how to manage when situations go wrong, where to go for support, how to cope with change, how to stay safe, and how to access employment if they want to. If they are having challenges with certain areas of communication which are causing them frustration, then of course we support them. Let's consider how speech and language therapy should be delivered for children with neurodivergent communication styles. Everyone in the child's environment are responsible for providing intervention. The people in the environment are the communication environment, meaning that professionals and staff have a duty to adapt their communication and interaction styles to support children with social communication challenges. Strategies should be embedded all day, every day, throughout the day by everyone. Adults should provide regular opportunities for children to use, develop and practice communication skills. Therapeutic input should be embedded into the natural environment, for example in the classroom, at lunchtime or in lessons. Skills should be taught or developed in regular daily activities, not just with the speech and language therapist in a one-to-one session. Adults should teach language through modelling in natural contexts, also called aided language stimulation. That marks the end of today's presentation about the introduction to social communication challenges in the classroom. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. The next 3 slides contain further links and information that will support the development of your knowledge and skills in this area. If you have any further questions or require any further information, please do not hesitate to contact your speech and language therapist. Thank you.